Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network here on Long Island let's see, it's December 17th, Friday at 10 a.m. as usual. I founded the Sales Pro Network because I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with both individuals and organizations to help them get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the network to help you do exactly that and to elevate the profession of sales, to turn it into something we can all be proud of. As you know, many people think of us as scum dogs, liars, thieves, and cheats who are willing to do and say anything, even though most of us aren't anymore. There was a lot of that going on when I started almost 50 years ago. But I'm here to elevate the profession of sales and put more money in your pocket. As you know, the Sales Pro Network is a place where you can come and ask questions, get advice and coaching. You can speak to each other and network. And every Friday at 10 a.m., we do a live interview, either a training that I'll give you or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. I'm going to let you know right now. Next, I believe it's Wednesday. I think it's the 22nd at 11:30. I'm going to do a live goal setting exercise for you guys. This will not be broadcast live, so you have to go into the network and find the link. We'll do it via Zoom so that we can interact. But I do this with all my coaching clients at the end of the year to help them set up their goal for 2022. And I'd love to help you do that too. So if you look in the network, there's an announcement there. And let's get to today's progress. Today, I'm bringing you a very special friend. It's my pleasure to introduce you to somebody who I've known for years. I know her as Karen Baker Blum, and she's now Karen Leba Baker. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Jeff. Good to see you. Good to hear you.
Good to see you too. Is it Leba or Leba?
Leba.
Perfect. Okay. I'm just going to call you
Karen.
Right. So Karen is the co-author of 23 Innovations in Sales, as well as way more. She's a fascinating lady. Karen, why don't you introduce yourself? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Maybe give us the 2-minute version of what brought you up to this point and what you do with people.
Okay, good. 2 minutes. So I grew up in a household of salespeople and fundraisers. And the dinner table conversation was about calling on prospects and closing them. I think I was the youngest person ever to know what an insurance premium was because I was working at my dad's office from age 8. Unfortunately, I was working in the secretary pool and not going on sales calls with him because I probably would have taken to sales right away. But it took me many years to get to understand that business is about people. And that's when I went into the personal development industry, first as a consumer, then as I like to say first as a party goer. I would go to workshops, I would learn, I would go out and test drive the tools that I'd gotten and then come back and report my glowing stories. Eventually, I decided to become the party thrower. Now I throw seminars for a living. I teach people all the tricks that I've learned over time, but most importantly, to excavate whatever doesn't work about them that's in the way of them getting where they want to go. And I founded Business as Pleasure. I called it that because I was tired of business as usual. And that was in 2006. And I teach people how to enjoy their lives, how to enjoy their sales, and what's in the way of them actually enjoying themselves, which is typically our bad attitudes.
I think I passed by a place in Nevada once that was called Business as Pleasure, but I think that's a completely different business. Do you mostly work with women or do you work with both women and men?
I work with both women and men. The name of our feminine community is the Embrace community. The name of our feminine and masculine or women and men or identifying as is called A Nurtured Life. And we have a weekly blog, a weekly podcast, and we're teaching people what's missing in modern life is moving out of the transactional and moving into the relational. When we have relationships with people, we can both get the nurturing that we need, and we can also provide the nurturing that others need. And we teach what are the skills and attitudes of living a nurtured life.
And while you're a sales expert, you don't specifically work on sales with people. You're talking about their whole lives, yes?
Well, that's exactly right. Sales is an aspect of business. It's an aspect of dignity. It's an aspect of being able to influence others. But we really work on the whole person. I would say that's right. And I wouldn't call it work. We tinker and play. We have a good time. Although one aspect towards getting to the higher states of consciousness is typically we have to go through a little bit of pain. But, the lotus flower grows out of mud. So that's kind of how I see the human being is we have to get through our SH and then get into the higher states of awareness and functioning.
Maybe that's why I'm doing well at the age of 66, because I've lived in a lot of mud over these years, that's for sure. By the way, if you're watching us live, please put a comment in and say hello. If you have not connected your Facebook account to StreamYard, we won't know who you are. So if you haven't done that, say hello and say who you are. Good morning, Steve Kent. Always, I know I can always count on you, my friend. Good to see you here. Good morning, Ben Gibbs, one of my favorite salespeople. And good morning, Jeff. It's Phil Danielle. Good morning. Good to see you, Phil Danielle. Phil Danielle. Well, actually, all these guys are sales experts. Phil Danielle has been around a long time, and not only is he a great salesperson, but he's a great sales leader. Leads a huge team of sales executives. So let's get to some questions for you. I took a lot of stuff from the book because I loved it when I first read it, and as I was preparing for this interview, Steve Kent says, "Hello, Karen."
And by the way, hello, Steve. By the way, Jeff endorsed the book on the back of it. He says, wow, rather than 23 innovations in selling, I think the authors should have called them 23 truths. Mia and Karen have taken out all the hype and so-called advanced techniques, which don't work for most people anyway, and given you 23 bottom line ideas to help you sell more and do it with integrity. A terrific read for any new sales rep and an important reminder for all the pros out there. Great stuff. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. And it's so funny you brought that up because I had forgotten that I had given you that endorsement of what I said. And as I was in the shower a little while ago, thinking about talking with you, I was like, these aren't really innovations in selling. These are really facts. She's just laying out, here's what you need to do. And that's what I like about it so much. I read a lot of books. I can't say I read every book that comes out on selling, but I sure read a lot of them. And so many of them have what I consider great ideas, which are just impossible to implement. You read The Challenger Sale, really brilliant book, not impossible, but very difficult to implement for most large organizations, also very expensive. And what I love about your book was it's here's what you do, and it's bottom line. It's kind of like the way I teach sales. You don't need fancy tricks. Just do the foundational stuff. So let's get to some of your innovations. The first innovation seems to me to be counterintuitive. It says, forget about selling. What does that mean?
I'm glad you asked about that. Well, the moment that you go into a sales pitch, you can literally clear the room because people don't want to be sold to, but they love to buy. I mean, how many credit cards do you have in your wallet? You're using those things. So the first trick to selling is to erase yourself out of the stigma of who people are going to see you as when you launch into your sales pitch. And you really just have to become yourself. One way that I do that is I help people go into the shadow of what they think. What have they unconsciously absorbed about salespeople from a young age? What do they not trust about their own product? What do they not trust about themselves? They rehearse so they can see where they themselves come across inauthentically. And we muck out the stalls, so to speak, of what our own attitudes are. And why people mistrust us is because we don't trust ourselves to operate from a state where we have nothing about selling. We're really there to serve. We're really there to find out what they need. But I still make mistakes. Mistakes.
Yeah. So I think we always love what we recognize in ourselves. And, it's the same exact thing I teach, stop selling. Stop doing what people consider selling. I'm proud to be in sales and I'm proud to be a salesperson because I believe, like you do, it's all about serving, but it's not about the pitch. I actually hate that word. I want that erased from the sales vocabulary. Just have great conversations with people because really sales is all about having a conversation or a series of conversations leading to assist the other person, help the other person choose to do business with you. I don't close anybody. 2 deals closed for me this week. I didn't close them. They closed themselves. I got another one that called me and said, hey, Jeff, starting January 1st, we're going to be doing business. That was 3 in 1 week. By the way, 3 in 1 week, 1 week before Christmas.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But, I was speaking to one of my very close dear associates the other day, and I was mentioning it to her. She goes, Jeff, it's because you're attracting the right things because you're not pushy. And it's all the seeds that you've been planting all along. And if any of you are watching right now and you're giving up because it's past the 15th of December, there's plenty of business out there. In fact, I posted in the group today and on LinkedIn, there are 5 or 6 things you should be doing in the next 2 weeks to either close business now or set up your new year.
I think I should join your group. That's one of the things I should do.
I hope you will. because I'm sure you have a lot to add. You also say that selling is not a numbers game, which is what most people say. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yep. So there's always the numbers aspect, and we always want to know what our numbers are because they tell one side of the story. On the other hand, if you are out doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, being involved in your community, sharing with others, asking them questions, you become your product. You become your offer. People know who you are. And let's say another way to say selling is not a numbers game is that who you're being is more important than what you're doing. And it's so natural that when people think about sales in the Long Island area, who do they think about? They think about Jeff. Well, there's how many people in the Long Island area? You can't count all those people. You can't count the people that are watching your podcast. You're just in the community being who you are, and people are attracted to that. And that makes your numbers. It's much bigger than just a calculation. It's more about a life well lived, serving, being loyal to your product, because many salespeople are very fickle. I don't think I'm the only one. We're like, oh, next shiny object. Yeah, that would be a great thing to sell. Or their program of incentives is better than the one I have. Yeah, but what about your reputation, your integrity, your longevity, that people know who you are? Those are all things that influence the numbers, but numbers don't really turn on most people. What turns on most people is competition, winning, being famous, being well known. The numbers just, they're a trail to the story of what your well-lived life really is.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. To a certain extent, it is a numbers game. And when people say that or give that advice, what they're really saying is, look, if you're going to make one call and expect to get through to one person and close one deal, you're
Good
probably
luck.
not. So to a certain extent, it is a numbers game, and that you've got to make enough contacts of what in any way, shape, or form, or have enough people attracted to you that are raising their hand and saying, I want to do business with you. Because I don't care how good you are at selling. If you're not speaking with enough people, you're not going to close enough business. But it's
That's
not
all
only
true.
numbers.
That's the foundation of it. That's something to build on. By the way, I think sales have gotten a bad rap, and salespeople have gotten a bad rap because the bean counters came in and made it all about numbers. But it's actually not all about numbers. That is one facet of it. But the salesperson knows it's really about people and conversations and offers and service. So there's both sides of it, the left brain and the right brain.
Yep. You also say that if you try to pull somebody to you or push them, that they're going to balk, which is a word I love. What should we be doing instead of pushing or pulling?
How come you didn't tell me you were going to ask me these hard questions?
I got to tell you, every time I'm going to do an interview on one of my books, I have to go read the book to remember what the heck I said. Well, I think you were talking about curiosity there.
I was going to say, instead, just play with them. Well, yeah, what would it be like if you had that? What would that make available for your life? Where do you see you could be in a year from now? What would people be saying about you? Really engage the senses. Kind of like you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You have to arouse his thirst, like run him hard before you take him to the pond. And like really engage with the clients and the prospects and their dreams and their hopes and the secret conversations that they long to have with someone, but everyone's too busy pitching them to listen to what they really have to say. And I was guilty of that yesterday. And I'm going to call her back today and say, you know what? I just talked. What do you really see you want for your life and community? What would make you open up and know you had a safe place to land anytime that you needed it, and a place to come brag about what was working in your life? What would that do for you? And then just listen. They'll come closer if they feel they can trust you. And when they're close enough that you actually see what they need, then you can just let them know. And then they feel your teamwork. They feel that you're really on their side and that you really care about them accomplishing all those things they revealed to you. It's really a nurture process. And I come back to nurture over and over again, both in life, in love, in parenting, in sales. It's really about having people feel cared for so that they can reveal the things most of us are taught to squash down and not talk to anybody about, and then come out with it so you can have some partnership to accomplish it.
Yep. I'm in perfect agreement that you come from a place of service. And first of all, if you push somebody, if I was physically with you and I pushed against you, the normal reaction is you're going to push back. So now we're fighting. And I believe that we as salespeople never, ever can win a fight. It's stupid to fight with prospects. They've got the money. They can choose to do business with us or not. They can give us an appointment. They can choose to buy from us or not. So pushing doesn't work. Pulling, it's almost the same. You do want to come from service because then you attract. You kind of do pull people in, but in a gentle way. And your point in the book, because I actually did read it, was, be curious about people. It's not about the pitch. It's about asking questions. I always tell my clients, stop pitching, and don't worry about closing. The close is the natural outcome of the sales process done right. What you really want to do is ask great questions. Be curious about the other person. Just forgot his name. How to Win. Dale Carnegie, who wrote
Yes.
How to Win Friends and Influence People, said it's better to be interested than interesting. Be interested in somebody else, and you'll attract them to you. Edward Henry says persuade. Edward, I'm going to take issue with that word too. The typical sales trainer is going to teach you got to be convincing and persuading and talking people into things. Well, we're talking about pushing again there. So I would take issue with that word. What you want to do is have great conversations.
Do you like the word influence?
I don't. Although I've read the book Influence by Caldini, and it's a brilliant book. And if you read that, you really understand our previous president. But my job is not to influence anybody or to persuade them. My job is just to have a chat, which I really like because A, I like chatting, and B, it takes the pressure off me. And I've got enough pressure in my life. I'm not a stressed guy at all, but I've got 3 kids in college and an ex-wife and all kinds of things. Just like everybody has stuff. I don't need more pressure.
No.
I don't want to put pressure on anybody else. What I want to do is speak to enough people and have great conversations so that enough of them say, I need some of that. And I understand, based on the numbers, more of them are going to say, I don't need some of that. But that's okay, because I'm constantly planting seeds with enough people. Somebody said, good morning. I'm sorry, I don't know who we are unless you put your name in there, but good morning back to you. And we've also got a morning. If you haven't connected your Facebook account to StreamYard, all it says is Facebook user, my friends.
Somebody to your point about pressure.
Sorry?
To your point about pressure.
Yes.
Pulling and pushing are both using pressure. And engaging is kind of very different than creating pressure. It's creating engagement. And you know what engagement means.
Yeah,
when people get engaged, they're serious.
As you know, I've started doing stand-up comedy, and that's I'm looking to engage with the audience. It's lovely for me to be standing up there and chatting with myself, but unless they're engaging with me, then I'm wasting their time and mine. I want to move on to something else. You've been around a long time. What are some of the typical mistakes that salespeople make that tend to lose or even delay a sale by creating mistrust?
Well, let's look at what is mistrust. Mistrust is basically fear. And we sometimes unconsciously threaten. We don't answer the question that was asked, so we diminish them in their own eyes. They don't feel like they're important, and they feel like we're not really listening to them. We act superior. I know you've never seen this before, but when I educate women on how to assume a posture of equality with men, almost always women tell me that men try to intimidate them. So intimidation, anything that takes you off an equal playing field, acting like you know more about their situation or their market than they do. I'm not talking about inspiring with higher level ideas. I'm talking about knowing more, because like they say, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So those are a few of the typical mistakes that people make to, I would call it tighten the sphincter. You're having this conversation, you're kind of laughing along, it's well lubricated, it's easy. And then somebody threatens you, well, if you don't do this, your business will never thrive. I mean, I can ask the question, what happens if you don't do this? And then they can come to their own observations about that. But when I tell them I know more than them, right away, they're like, I don't think so.
Yep. Gotcha. Edward says, great conversation. Good morning, Heidi.
Thanks,
Heidi Gallmeyer Felix. Good to see you here. Don Levine still can't figure out how to use his wife's account, but Don Levine is our executive recruiter. Good to see you. And somebody says, Jeff, Facebook user. Good to see you. If you have any questions for Karen, please put them in the comments. She'd be happy to. I've got plenty, but I'm sure she'd be happy to answer yours. And one of the things that I think that salespeople often miss, and I see it all the time, which definitely creates mistrust, is they assume that they should walk in and get right to the point. Thank you for your time. Let me tell you why Jeff Goldberg and Associates is the greatest coaching firm in the world. No, you got to establish rapport. Why people actually have a mistrust or a distrust of salespeople in general. So we have to immediately start to work on that. Are there particular mistakes, and if there are, what are they, that men make when they're selling to women, or the reverse too, when women are selling to men?
Absolutely. Typically men communicate to get something done, to move the action forward, to carry the ball 10 yards. Whereas women typically communicate in order to bond. So overlooking those two proclivities can cause all sorts of havoc in the selling process. Typically women, we're too chatty. We apologize. Listen to a woman in normal life and hear how often she says, I'm sorry. That's diminishing her stature in the eyes of her prospect.
You haven't met my ex-wife, by the way.
No.
Those words never came out of her mouth, but I get what you're saying.
Well, we say it gratuitously. We don't say it for something we actually do. Like we go in front of someone in line and then we say, I'm sorry. So we're basically robbing ourselves of our own self-esteem without realizing it, and giving other people the attitude that they're better than us. Women also unconsciously complain and whine. We don't know we're doing it. Taking an emotional tone of any sort can take the sales interview right down, because people will then go into a complaining tone instead of a how can we solve this problem together tone. And typically women, when they get into a stressful situation, they'll respond emotionally with fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is brown nosing. And all of those are postures that give the other person the upper hand and let them know more intimidation is required, because we're reading subtle signals. In a moment, I'll ask you to show that pie chart, if you don't mind, and we'll look at the energetics. Not quite yet, because I want to answer about men first. What are the mistakes men make? But the mistakes that women make are they make themselves inferior and they go into fight or flight, which then just activates the response in the other person that they should dominate. Things that men do typically, well, they do it with other men because it's just a posture that you're taught early on, and the testosterone produces this posture, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just being aware of it is important. Men intimidate. They try to get the upper hand. They try to establish the pecking order right away. And they also, often with women, they flirt or seduce. And rather than getting down to business, they try to see if they can score. And so one of the things that's very important to me is to make men aware of these things so that they can kind of smooth out their conditioning to be that way and not be that way, be professional instead, but also that women should know that those things are on the horizon. They're not going to escape it. The Me Too movement has brought it to light, but all women already know that. So finding a professional, unruffled and poised way to respond that doesn't get aggressive, doesn't make him feel ashamed of his actions, just lets him know that we're going to establish a business relationship here. And if we do that, then he will respect her and she will respect him. Don't try to close too quickly. That feels like pressure. And it brings up a lot of triggers for women that haven't had a voice for themselves. I would say don't ask too many questions and fail to create relationships. Share about yourself. Let her know about your life and who you are as a person. Don't just try to be the salesperson. Actually establish some kind of working friendship so that she has a sense of trust and that you're not there to get her to do something. And I think men typically fail to disclose anything important about themselves that would have the woman feel resonant toward them as a human being.
It's much like dating. And in fact, I have to stop sharing that for a second, but Edward said, they don't spend time on discovery and not setting mutual expectations, just like we do when dating. Absolutely. And what, as you were talking, it brought to mind, and I think I might have chatted about this with you years ago in another conversation, but what you're talking about reminds me of the famous book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which I thought was 92% brilliant. And he really talks about that we communicate differently, that men just want to solve problems and women just want to be heard. A man comes home from work or a woman comes home from work and the woman's talking about her day and the man's listening and trying to give advice when all she wants to do is be listened to. And we just want to solve problems. And when we start to realize that we have two completely different styles and can take into account the way the other person wants to be communicated with instead of how we want to communicate with them, we're going to have better relationships, including in sales. Yes?
Yes. And, men and women spend more time together in this era than ever before in history. It used to be that the men went out to the fields or the factories and women were at home taking care of the domestic life. It's not like that. We weren't necessarily meant to spend as much time together as we are thrust into now. Our time apart is precious. It allows us both to rekindle. The men, they're masculine, the women, they're feminine. And so that's why all these new skill sets are being taught and brought on board, is because we're in new dynamics, different than we've ever had before.
Got it. Did you want to share that slide or no?
Yeah, I'd like to share that slide just to show that.
It's very small, but I think people will be able to see it.
Is it too small? Ooh, that's really small. Okay, you can basically take it down. What it's saying is that 7% of communication is the words that we're saying. 43% is our body language. 38% is our tone of voice. And so what we're communicating by our tone of voice is either you're less than, I'm better than, I can have my way with you, you have to listen to me. And just becoming aware of how we're actually coming across towards others. And there's nothing like a live training to do that.
Yeah, I talk about those same numbers because, especially when I'm teaching cold calling, because that's over the phone and you kind of lose the body language aspect. And a lot of people don't realize that people are understanding how you're communicating, not just based on the words you choose to use. And I'm not saying words are unimportant, but your tone of voice expresses a lot. If you and I talk like this in a monotone, people are going to hear us and understand us differently than if we express ourselves the way we normally do. What are some of your, I hate to use the word, but I kind of like it, tricks for avoiding the grind and maintaining your passion? Usually when somebody starts a job in sales, especially if they're working for somebody else, they're all excited and it doesn't take very long before they're like, oh, I hate this.
Another day, another dollar.
How can we get past that grind?
Okay, well, I know you have the book. Anybody that's really interested in the answer to that question, I recommend you go find the book. It's by me and Mia Sage, 23 Innovations in Selling, and you can buy it on Kindle or on Amazon and have the real book in your hand. But we talk about it in this book. So the first thing is make your selling a game. Just like you get out of bed in the morning when you're about to go to vacation and you don't need your alarm. A really great sales career, you don't need your alarm because you know what you're actually up to that day and you know what the score is going to be. You're all suited up. You have your teammates. You have your referee that blows the whistle if you foul. Make it a game, and have the rewards be something that you genuinely want. We took this picture in Bora Bora where we rewarded ourselves by going and staying in one of these cabins that you see here built out over the water. That was part of our sales game that year. Develop a passion for education. Don't just have a product, but really give. When you come into the arena of a sales interview, you want to be the inspiration that walks in the door. You want to be the bearer of news that inspires them and raises their vibration. Make that part of your game that people can't wait to see you walk in. They're not like, oh no, another conversation with this person. Be willing to entertain your client. Like one of the things I said to Jeff is, should I wear this hat today? We voted no, but just be willing to stand out and make their day, be amusing for them, bring a good joke, know that you're the party, you're the one that they're waiting to see. You're the one. We would call our clients when I used to do team sales and team customer service, we would sing to them. We would just find an uplifting song. We'd leave it on their voicemail, or when they answered the phone, we'd start singing, ho, 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 who will go? And our clients often told us that our call made their day. So make it fun for yourself. And actually, every innovation in this book is about staying out of the grind. And that's why I called it business as pleasure, because I didn't like business as usual. Go large, like have an adventure you're looking forward to. So if a client asks you what's happening in your life, you can share. We're going to Rochester in the spring to celebrate our daughter's graduation. And we're going to have our whole family come from all around the country and even some from out of the country. Share your adventures. Have your adventures planned out. Let's see. Is there anything? Oh, yes. Recruit playful associates. By the way, Jeff, I told you I would love to associate with you. You make my day every time I talk to you.
Oh, so sweet.
So all of these, stack the odds so that you're going to have a great day, and then you'll have a great day.
Yeah, I love what you said. I love everything you're saying, but I love what you said earlier about, you want them to welcome you when you come in. It reminds me of the TV show, if anybody's old enough to remember, Cheers. When Norm would walk in, everybody in the bar would go, Norm! That's who you should be. Everybody should know you when you walk, and they should be thrilled to see you, as opposed to, oh, here comes that pushy salesperson again. Eleanor, I apologize, but I don't know what VOI means or VAWR. But if you could write out what that is, I'd be happy to put that up there. Somebody is saying poor communication isn't a secret anymore either. With things like Yelp, now customers will let the whole world know if they feel underserved. And here's one of my favorite people, Brian Keith McNeil, who is an awesome sales trainer. He's the confidence coach, and he just came out with a brand new program called Basic Essential Selling Techniques. Oh, I hope I got that right, Brian. Really great stuff. And somebody's saying you should definitely wear that. You should definitely wear the hat.
Jeff, I had one more thing I wanted to say about making it a game. Is I like to call one of my customers a day, and I like to find out how they're doing. If I'm in their city, I call them and I just say, I'm in your city. I'm sorry, I don't have time to see you. Or if they missed one of my sessions, I like to call them and tell them I missed them. Well, yesterday I'm in Houston celebrating my dad's 87th birthday. And I called one of my clients in Houston and I just said, I missed you in the spotlight today. That's our Thursday session. And she said, well, I went to an event at Rice University and I want you to know I'm a different person. And I said, well, how so? She said, it used to be I just went to those events to meet my fellow musicians and see what I could get from them. And she said, I actually was there today enjoying them, engaging with them and having a good time. I didn't think one time about what I wanted from them. And she said, that's a result of your program. So get those success stories because it reminds you why you do what you do. Because sales is tough. We take a beating out there like Jeff said, you can expect to get more no's. And after a while, the no's don't bother us as much. We know it's just part of the game. But still, hearing how people are thriving from using your product is so important to you feeling good about yourself.
We've got some great comments here. First of all, it's basic, essential sales training, best. And I believe, in fact, I think I posted it yesterday. Brian is looking for beta testers. I hope I'm getting these numbers right. I think this program is going to sell starting in January for like $1,000, $997 or something like that. And I think he's giving it away for either $297 or maybe $97 for beta testers. So if anybody's interested, there is a post in the Sales Pro Network. You can go there and check that out. Somebody is saying happy birthday to your dad, which is very sweet.
Thank you.
I'm betting this is Valerie Heffron saying beach pug. That's my dog. And Joe Pontius says he's multitasking again. Joe Pontius works at one of the companies that I manage. So I'm glad you're telling me that you're watching and multitasking. I appreciate that, Brian. I thought there was something else I wanted to pull up. There you go. It is $97 for a great sales training program. Brian's come on a couple of times. He's really terrific, an awesome guy. I'm really blessed. I didn't realize how many incredibly talented and awesome people I really knew until I started doing these interviews. And I just keep meeting incredibly wonderful people. Okay, sorry. It's not Valerie Heffron. It's Katie Karlovitz. Good to see you, Katie.
That's the magnetism, by the way, Jeff, is when you really love what you do, you're providing value. That's the magnetism where you don't have to push and pull. And that's cultivated over time, because if you think about a magnet or a baby, a baby is I like to say a baby, if a dad's walking their baby, that baby is a babe magnet. Every woman that comes by wants to get up in that little baby's face and go, oh, you're so cute. And then they meet the dad. And that's because the baby has all its magnetism. It hasn't been hammered by life. But most of us have been hammered by life one way or another, and it's dispersed our forces. But when you stay in your zone of genius, you do the things you love to do, stand up, live shows. Jeff's an entertainer. So it's vital for entertainers to get the audience engagement. When you're in your zone of genius, you're cultivating your own magnetism and you're polarizing your magnets so they draw to you. And this is the physics behind the work that I do, is really understanding energy and how each human is really an energetic being. And there's everything we do either hammers our energy and disperses our magnetism, or it builds our energy and increases the vitality and the aliveness and the magnetism that's in us.
And it's also your come from. A lot of what you're saying is about come from, and it brings to mind some advice that I was recently given by a true friend, Greg Kettner, who he did a long time. He was a professional stand-up comedian, and also an excellent salesperson, sales manager, highly experienced. And he now speaks to companies about how to have fun at work, how to enjoy work. And I was talking to him recently, and he knows that I've just started my comedy career. And I was telling him, God, I love getting laughs. I love being on the stage and getting laughs. And he said, I'd like to give you another way of looking at it. And it was really a game changer for me. After he said it, I thought about it all day, and it really just resonated. He said, instead of getting laughs, think about giving laughs. And it was just a totally different come from. And now when I'm on the stage, it's not about my ego wanting to hear the laughter, although that still feels great. It's me, how can I give this gift to the audience? And that's exactly what you're talking about in sales. And I love. In fact, I told you I gave a post with like 6 things you can do for the next 2 weeks. One of them was exactly that. Just call people and say hi. Not, will you buy from me? And of course, if there's somebody who's been telling you they're going to think it over, this is a great time to say, have you thought it over? Are you ready to go? It's also a great time, especially if you work with large companies. Right now is a great time to call up and say, by any chance, do you have budget that you'd like to dump? And if you think that sounds crazy, it ain't. I didn't come up with this. My mentor taught me this, and I've had it happen way more than once, where I'll call a client and say, hey, I don't know if you have any training budget that you want to get rid of, but I've had more than once. Oh yes, Jeff, can you invoice me for $25,000? Can you invoice me for $50,000? Because what happens is, if you have a budget of X, if you have a budget of $200,000 for the year and you don't use it, you don't get the same budget next year, you get less. So often people like to dump budget. So calling up to ask stuff like that, but just calling to say hello, how are you, with no ulterior motive, that's relationship. And that people remember that. And they also remember when you act like a shark. So we don't want to do that. Why is yielding one of the most powerful forces in business.
Oh my gosh, I wish we were live. If we were in a live class, we would actually do this in person.
Oh.
So yielding, it's really a physical principle. Condoleezza Rice was an example of yielding. She listened to everyone's opinion in the room and she had no opinion. And because she had no opinion, everyone gravitated towards her because they knew that they would be listened to and considered. They wouldn't be argued with. Yielding is a receptive force. And when someone's pushing you and you yield, they have no choice but to come closer to you. That's why, back to what you said about never arguing, because arguing, it does create a bond, but it also creates a hostility and an enmity and a competition. You want to get on the same side with people. So you can be on the same side with people either by going over and sitting on the same side with them or by allowing them to come closer to you. And some of the things that I do to yield when my son starts trying to argue with me, I have an 18-year-old. He's very verbal, very intelligent. And when he starts arguing with me, I say to him, I can see how you see things that way. Or I say to him, I see it differently, but I leave it at that. I let him have his opinion. I don't try to convince him. Sometimes I also joke with him and I say, are you trying to pick a fight with me? Are you trying to argue with me? And it always works because people don't have anything to push against. And so they come along with you.
It's kind of tough to argue with somebody who says, I can see your point.
It's pretty hard to argue with someone.
I find that often salespeople that I'm working with, especially younger salespeople, they put on what I call their business persona, especially their business voice. I'll listen to people making cold calls and they'll hang up and I'll go, why did you sound like a business person instead of the way you and I are talking? Oh, no, I have to sound professional. I said, my advice is stop that. Just be you. So should we be one way in business and another the rest of the time, or should we just be ourselves? Is it okay to just be who you are?
What I really think about this is don't be who you are, because who you are has been conditioned by people who disapprove of you, trying to get other people's approval. Don't be who you are. Look, if I be who I am, I would still be 6 years old. I would still be sucking my thumb. I would still be crying for mama. No, continually upgrade who we are and then be consistent and congruent about who we are. Doing the personal growth to act our age, not our shoe size, to develop the communication skills that have you be a person that others want to be around and others want to learn from. That's not who you are. That's who you've become. You weren't born like this. I met you a few years ago. There were things about you then that you have already, taken out to the trash, because you're always seeking to become the best version of yourself. So I would say be the best version of yourself at all times and be who you are, the best version of yourself, the lovable one, the one that loves others, the one that people can bring their problems to, the one that knows they know better to complain to because they know that would not be a productive use of your time. I don't agree with being who you are. Be who you're becoming.
Yeah, your words are echoing with me because I worked with an incredible coach for over a year and a half, and people would ask me, well, what kind of coach is she? Is she a life coach? Is she a sales coach? I'm like, I don't need a sales coach, and she's not really a life coach. And she describes herself as a transformational coach, and the way she describes what she does, I help people be the best version of themselves. And there is zero doubt in my mind that she's stunningly amazing at what she does, because in a year and a half of working with her, I made more progress than I started doing personal development work when I was 20. So, 40 plus years. And I've spent tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds on hundreds of hours in seminar rooms with all kinds of incredible gurus. And I'm a personal junkie addict. I love that stuff. But man, oh man, none of it ever really had a lasting influence on me, a lasting effect. And when I stopped working on that kind of stuff and really focused on just listening to her and absorbing what she was saying and becoming the best version of myself, miracles started happening, real miracles, including I was able to have a conversation with my ex-wife that completely transformed our relationship after, 2 decades of just being like this. I made more money since then. And by the way, the interesting thing for me, and I'm guessing you probably see things like this too with your clients, she said, Jeff, I'm not here to help you make more money, but you will. My clients always make more money, but that's not my purpose. My purpose is just to help you be the best Jeff you can possibly be. And when you do that, the rest follows. Is that kind of what you're saying, Karen? Yeah. What kind of struggles have you been able to address with your clients? What do you see happening most often? And what kind of things do you address with them?
Well, a story comes to mind. One of my clients, Janet, who typically she came to work with me because, is that dog really annoying? Can you hear it?
I hear it, but I love dogs, and as long as he's not making mine bark, then it's okay.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I like dogs more than
she
I like
came,
people.
and the situation she described was that she was constantly feeling like the victim of cronyism, that there was an old boys network, and she would come in with her pretty much commodity, and that they would have a friend in the business, or they would more than likely ask her, is that your best price, after a 30-minute interview? And when she said yes, they would pick up the phone, call their crony and say, can you match this price? And then they would get the price they wanted and they would show her the door. And she didn't know what to do in a case like that. So we taught her how to stay unemotional, how to be honest, and how to basically call the shots. And right after the trainings that we did with her, she said, that happened to me on Monday morning in my first sales interview. Only this time I didn't seethe, fume, cry, or let him show me the door. I just took a deep breath and I said, that wasn't right. I just gave you my best price, spent 30 minutes of both of our valuable time. And then you called a friend and gave him the business. That wasn't right. And he said, you're right. Give me your contract. And she slid it across the desk. He signed it and she got a new client. And she said, I talked to her subsequently, although we're not in the same state any longer. And she said, I've used that hundreds of times, Karen. So help people keep their calm so that they can tell the truth and not react from their emotions. That's one of the things, because women do tend to react in an emotional manner, as I was addressing earlier. The other story that I wanted to tell you was about Victor, who we taught him how to remove himself from the competition by not giving a bid, even in a company that their standard operating procedure is to get a bid. So really teaching people how to stand out from the competition, which means that they're not a salesperson, they're a service animal. They're not just looking to put the bid in and then hope that they get the business. They find a way to let the prospect know that we don't have to do that. I work on a different level with people, and here's how I'm going to show you that I do that. And that's how he gets the business now, is he doesn't have to put in a bid and the purchase orders come to him. So those are some of the things, but I would say mostly people not knowing how they come across. And so they just keep doing it, even though it doesn't work.
I can't tell you how much I love the bit about, is that your best price? Salespeople tend to get very nervous when they have any question about price. And first thing to understand, I believe, is it's just a question. Second thing is, I ask it every time too. It's natural to ask that question. So why would you be upset about it when somebody says, is that your best price? But the correct answer is yes. Yes. I don't blame anybody who uses a different technique, and I'm not judging it. Well, I'm a judging machine just like everybody else, but I'm not judging them if they do it. But I never, ever inflate my price so that when somebody says, can you do better, I take it down and really get the number I was looking for anyways. This is just the way I work. My price is my price, period. I don't drop it by a penny, no matter what you say or what you do. If you tell me you can get it for $5 less from my competitor, go ahead, enjoy it. Please do. Here's my feeling, Karen. It's absolutely normal for everybody to ask, is that the best price? So I anticipate it. It's absolutely fine for me to say, yes, it is. I knew you were going to ask me that question, so I gave you my very best price right from the get-go. And I believe truly that it's almost never, not never, but almost never about the price. Now, Ben Gibbs, who I think is still on this call, and Joe Pontius, they're in a highly commoditized industry. And we are constantly looking for, well, what's our differentiator? If everybody's got the same product, and they work for a manufacturer, we work with a manufacturing company. Well, lots of companies make bubble wrap and lots of companies make mailers. So what makes us different? Well, it's the salespeople who care about you. It's how quickly we can get it delivered to you. It's how we're going to take care of issues if they do come up. So don't get upset when somebody says, can you do better on the price? Who doesn't want the best possible price they can get? But on our side, when we're selling, have the confidence to say, I'm giving you the best possible price. And really, what I'm really giving you is exceptional value, because I think you would agree with me. It's not about the price. It's about the value in the relationship. Yeah. And speaking of relationship, and I know this is huge for you and it is for me, Innovation 22 is get out more. And COVID changed everything.
Everything.
Do you have any tips for selling in a virtual world when we both know it is about relationship? Because clearly, in my opinion, and opinions are like rear ends, everybody's got one, and most of in my opinion, nothing beats a face-to-face meeting. Nothing. But in this new era, we can't always get it, and it doesn't always make sense. And in fact, in many ways, I like what's going on because I'm saving a heck of a lot of time. I barely leave my house anymore. I can go from sales call to sales call or coaching call to coaching call. I'm not driving around a million miles and wasting time. Not that I ever waste time. I'm always doing something while I'm driving, but you get what I'm saying. So do you have any advice for people in the new world where we're doing a lot of what you and I are doing right now, speaking over video conference and selling via video conference?
I do.
Karen. I think you would.
It's on the bottom of page 51. You can awaken your desire to go out into the marketplace by taking small excursions. If that seems too much, you can start even smaller just by calling friends who make you feel good. The more you reach out, the more comfortable you will feel about facing people. And the other thing is, I talked earlier about how many salespeople harbor hidden doubts about themselves or about their product. They harbor hidden doubts about why they're selling. So they feel manipulative, they feel fearful themselves, they feel suspicious or mistrustful about who they are. They don't realize it, they just know they don't really feel on. And so one of the offerings that I have for the coming year is a 6-month sales program where we meet once a week and once a month, and we look at trust in the selling process. How do we actually remove the fear that's in us about our product, that's in us about meeting people, that's in us about COVID? Because we've been pumped full of fear, like there wasn't already enough of it. So really encountering our fear at this time in human evolution is very important. Forget about thinking it doesn't exist or brushing it under the rug. People hear the fear in our tone, like that pie chart illustrated. They don't hear our words, they hear what's underlying our words. And so I think looking at our own shadows and our own ways that we unconsciously manipulate or unconsciously try to get the upper hand is extremely important. If we don't do that, we're going to lose the sale because we haven't worked on ourselves. So we have my low battery just went on. Tell me first, just to save face, how much time do we have left? Do I need to run and get my charger?
We have 6 minutes at the most.
Okay, I think I should probably run and get my charger. Excuse me for not doing that. But I was just saying the things that create mistrust those need to be fully faced and they need to be worked on. I'm sure you've worked on similar kinds of things with your coach. It's not about your selling, it's about who you're being when you're selling. So, yeah, call your friends until your energy is high enough. Find processes that have you move beyond. When we wake up in the morning, our bodies are still waking up from sleep. We haven't had the energy of food. We haven't gotten out and engaged. We're still kind of introverted. So typically people need to have a morning process before they have their first sales call. That's something that wakes them up. Either they jump in the ocean, they jump in Barton Springs if they live in Austin like I do. They take a shower, a cold shower. They might journal, they might meditate, but something that elevates their energy level to where they actually can get face-to-face with somebody or where they actually can sound engaging on the phone. Really, sales is like any other professional sport. We have to be in shape for it. And it has to do a lot with our attitude. We don't have to have our body in, NFL condition, but we do have to have our hearts in the right place. We have to have our voice tone, everything that has to do with this body craft we inhabit has to be clicking before we have our first sales call, because we can't afford to have them miss the opportunity to acquire what they need just because we're having an off morning. We have to actually go to town. Like, for example, I thought of bringing my charger out here, but I didn't do it. So that's one of the ways that we let ourselves down and don't play our game at 100%, is we don't do every little thing we think of to take care of ourselves and our environment so that the whole day goes well. People feel served. They get what they need. They see who we are. They see how we can help them. I hope that answered your question.
It did. So we can make this the last question since you're running out of battery anyways. If hidden doubts are by definition hidden, what can we do to uncover them for ourselves? Or do we need to work with somebody else who can be our mirror?
That's such a great question. Yeah, I would say don't take your hidden doubts out. And those are your blind spots, right? You're going to take every blind spot into a sales call, into a courting relationship, into a parenting relationship. The things that you can't see about yourself are the things that are going to hold you back. And so there's nothing that I see for me in my life that has taken the place of live training or live coaching, so that we can actually see the ways that we're not playing our A game, and let people point out that you're timid, that you're brown nosing. How will you ever grow beyond it into the person you're becoming if someone doesn't point out the honest truth to you? And that's really how I see it. And a coach without a coach, that's crazy. All top players have coaches because we have blind spots. Look at Michael Jordan. His left-hand dribble was suffering. He watched himself on video to see how he could play a better game. And on the off season, he perfected his left-hand dribble. And all of us have something, whether it's prospecting, lead generation, asking for the sale, doing the customer service. We all have fears and shadows and hidden doubts that come up. And so, we have to constantly be in training to become the people we want to be. And like your coach said, you'll make more money. The sales will come. And getting around, I like to call us old wolves. In Yellowstone, they did a study of the packs of wolves. And they found that the ones that had 4-year-old or older wolves, because that's a long time for a wolf to live in the wild in those harsh conditions of Yellowstone, the wolf packs that had 4 or 5-year-old wolves consistently had lower mortality rates for their pups. They had better rates of hunting. They had better teamwork. And that's because they had somebody that knew the lay of the land, and that was the old wolf. They just, through experience, had learned the way that things work. They were able to flow into the next opportunity or flow into the next situation. And that's what I see about people like us, is we're old wolves. And we have this innate knowledge, this innate wisdom and flow about how things go. And so we make fewer mistakes. We have fewer hidden doubts. more genuine confidence. And
this
that
gray hair came.
transmits to others. People feel our confidence before they hear what we say.
Yep, this gray hair came at a price, but
it did. That's why Jeff didn't want me to wear the hat, because he likes my hair.
I do like your hair. And it's why a great sales manager is so important to a salesperson, or a great coach. I don't want to be self-serving, but there's a great value in having somebody outside of you. Oh no, we lost Karen. Well, I guess she should have brought her charger, but I'll finish my thought and then we'll end for the day, guys. It's why having somebody outside of you who can take a look at what you're doing and what you're saying and give you the advice that you can't see for yourself. And it's incredibly hard for us to see them ourselves. It's why I love videotaping salespeople, role playing, and then showing the tape back to them. So I'm going to end today, guys. Karen Baker, let me show you her contact information, even though she's not here. Karen's a delight, as you can see. If anybody's interested in speaking with Karen, her website is businessaspleasure.com. You can find her on LinkedIn. Her email is karen@businessaspleasure.com. I don't know what this one, I think that's YouTube, Business as Pleasure. And I'm an old guy, so I don't know what this one is. That's not Instagram. Anyways, you can find Karen all over the place. And if you can't find her, feel free to reach out to me and I will get you her contact information. We will not have a live next week or the week after. It's the day before Christmas and then New Year's Eve. So I will leave you with this. I wish each and every one, first of all, I thank each and every one of you for being a member of the Sales Pro Network. We just crossed 1,000 members after being here for a year and a half. I'm really excited about that. And my new goal is by the end of April to have 2,000 members, on our way to 10,000. I wish each and every one of you a magnificent holiday and health, happiness, and most importantly, prosperity. Oh, Karen is back. And prosperity in the new year. Karen, you missed it. I just shared your contact information with everybody and told them how they can reach you. We're just about to say goodbye, and that's what I was doing. Please make sure, guys, that you take some time to set up your goals for 2022. And if you can, join me on the 22nd at 11:30. Karen, any final words for you?
I really appreciate people that put their attention on learning and growing. That's how we uplift the world and ourselves. And Jeff, I appreciate what you're doing. It was a pleasure being with you, hearing your commanding tone, your confidence, your joy in what you're doing. All that transmits. That's why people want to do business with us. Anyway, I'm really honored to be here.
And I'm honored to be your friend. I don't remember how we first met, but I'm thankful for whoever introduced us. It'll come back to me later, probably. Guys, I will end this as I do every time, other than have a very happy new year and a prosperous 2022. Always remember this: sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there. You still have 2 weeks or nine days to make things happen, and another whole year to achieve your goals. I love you all. Thank you for being members. Have a great day. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.